Hair in my mouth. Ugh. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Greg with Technically Speaking, back again this week, and today we're going to be talking about the 2016 MacBook Pro. Right out the gate, you're probably wondering why we're even talking about the 2016 model when it's 2017. But here's the thing. Anyone can go into Best Buy or Apple and say, give me the best laptop that you got. But is it even worth it? And the reality is, we're still a small channel, and Scott and I have bills to pay and families to support, but it's because of awesome people like you that actually watch our videos that we're able to justify making this investment in video production in the first place. But there's also this implied moral obligation to spend not cheaply, but wisely, so that we can continue to grow this channel without breaking the bank. We specifically chose the 2016 model because it looks almost identical with incredibly similar hardware underneath the hood, but you can pick it up for about $600 to $800 cheaper than the 2017 model. So if you have an old MacBook, or if you're looking for a big upgrade, or if you're getting serious about content production, this review's for you. Okay, so starting with the exterior, this 2016 MacBook Pro is the gorgeous space gray aluminum unibody design that most Apple fans have come to know and love by this point. It's a 15.4-inch display. The laptop itself is actually remarkably light. It weighs only slightly over 4 pounds. Apple itself listed as 4.02 pounds, and just over half an inch thick at 0.61 inches thick, which is actually thinner than the MacBook Air, which up until now has been Apple's kind of flagship thin and light ultra mobile laptop. The extra thin profile is due to continued refinements to the MacBook Pro design, including a newly redesigned keyboard. This is actually one of my least favorite features of the MacBook, and in my opinion is actually a step backward from previous models. This 15-inch MacBook does have a full keyboard, and it's not bad to type on. That's not really my problem, but it's noisy, man. It's just crazy loud. Anyone walking past you is going to think that you're in the middle of writing just the angriest email ever in the history of the medium. And I just can't imagine how irritating an entire room of these would be. The Force Touch trackpad right below the keyboard is another Apple reinvention of the standard trackpad that just about every laptop has now. I'm still not really comfortable with using it, but I'm also a person that prefers using a mouse anyway, so, not really my market. The usual multi-touch gestures are still there. You can do things like the pinch to zoom, two-finger scrolling, stuff like that. But there's also some new features like pressure-sensitive clicking and drawing, which is enough of a departure from the previous MacBook trackpads that it kind of annoys me. It's just a little more difficult to get things done. I spent probably a full minute trying to just click to drag and drop a file, all because there's a certain amount of pressure that you have to put down on the trackpad to be able to get it to say like, oh, you're trying to grab this file so that you can move it. Now, above the keyboard is the far more interesting touch bar. Admittedly, at first I was not really a huge fan of it because Apple replaced the existing physical escape and then function keys, which is your F1 through F12 type of keys, replaced all of those with this touch bar. I'm an IT guy. I use those keys, so I kind of felt like it was going to be a step back. But within a couple of minutes of using the touch bar, I got it. It totally makes sense, especially as more and more apps have come out with support for the touch bar. And I immediately wish that I could have something exactly like this on a bunch of other devices too. The touch bar is basically a thin touch screen with a surprisingly high resolution display behind it that shows contextual information based on what application you're in. So for example, and this is easily the most used function for us at least, editing videos in Final Cut shows you the timeline, and then swiping your finger cleanly sweeps through the playback of the project that you're working on. Confused by 18. Like most other Apple devices, using the touch bar is pretty intuitive, other than the lack of a physical tactile button like the rest of the keyboard. It's pretty brilliant. The Touch ID button is to the right of the touchpad, which doubles as a fingerprint reader for logging in, and when necessary, it's a physical interface to the computer in case of something like a kernel panic or something that would render the touch bar itself useless and inoperable. The display, as pretty much always, is absolutely top-notch. It uses the Apple standard at this point, LED backlit Retina 16 by 10 IPS display. It supports P3 wide color gamut. Has a native resolution of 2880 by 1800 at 220 pixels per inch and 500 nits of brightness. That's a lot of jargon for non-tech heads out there. So what this really means is that the picture is better than full HD quality, where the most common number you see is either 1080p or 1920 by 1080. 500 nits of brightness is pretty exceptional, where 200 to 300 is kind of more standard for not only laptops but mobile devices. And because of the P3 wide color gamut support, you'll actually see more colors more accurately represented than your average display. All in all, it just makes for this jaw-droppingly gorgeous picture, which has become a hallmark of pretty much all the Retina displays. Apple continues to push dongles, giving you a total of 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports. There's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And surprisingly, a headphone jack. So if you want to do anything else, if you need an Ethernet port, you need a dongle. If you want to attach an external display, you need a dongle. If you have a memory card, dongle. If you have a regular USB device, regular USB Type A, you need a dongle. Man, that's a lot of dongles. I wonder if I could say dongle like one more time in this video. It's ridiculous. Dongle. Adding to the confusion is the fact that Thunderbolt 3 ditches previous versions of the Thunderbolt connector in favor of the more standard USB Type-C. So there's this common misconception that Thunderbolt 3 is USB Type-C, which really isn't accurate. But we'll be doing a follow-up video on that later on, so keep an eye out for that one. Another move that seems like a real step backwards is the ditching of the MagSafe connector. So previous versions of the MacBook Pro had a magnetically attached power cord, and in my opinion this was an amazing feature and definitely something that helped set the MacBook Pro apart from other laptops, not just Macs but also Windows-based laptops. And the idea was that if somebody walked by and tripped over the power cord, the magnetically attached power cord would just spring off, no harm, no foul. You plug it back in, you're good to go. The 2016 ditches that in favor of a USB Type-C power adapter, which is cool. You don't have to, try and fiddle around and figure out where the power goes. You can literally plug the power adapter into any USB Type-C port on the MacBook, including any USB Type-C ports that might be provided by a dongle itself, and it'll charge the MacBook. So that's a neat feature, but in my opinion, I don't think that being able to plug your power cord in anywhere on your MacBook, I don't think that offsets the loss of functionality that you have from the missing MagSafe adapter, and I just think that's a real miss on Apple's part. Battery-wise, it's got a 76 watt-hour lithium polymer battery, which is yet another Apple staple. It's rated for about 10 hours of use when you're just doing kind of basic web surfing or watching movies, or about 30 hours on standby. So inside the laptop is a 6th gen Intel Skylake Core i7-6820Q. It's a quad core running at 2.7 gigahertz. There are 16 gigs of LPDDR3 running at 2133 megahertz. It also has, this particular model has a 512 gig solid state drive that's a PCIe flash based drive. It actually has 2 separate video cards. There's an Intel HD Graphics 530, which shares memory with the system itself. And there's also a Radeon Pro 455 that has 2 gigs of GDDR5. And the idea here is that as the graphical workload increases on the MacBook itself, it'll switch over from the low power, which is the Intel video card, over to the high-powered video card, which consumes a lot more energy, decreases your battery life, and that would be the Radeon Pro 455. So there you have it. If you're looking for a new laptop and you're thinking about getting a MacBook Pro, but you're a little hesitant to spend that much money on a 2017 edition, save yourself about $600 to $800 and pick up the 2016 MacBook Pro. So that's it for this week. Thank you all for stopping by to check out the video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We really do pay attention to all of the comments and all the subscriptions and all the feedback that you all provide, and we really appreciate it. So we'll see you guys next time.